I am proud to present the last module of the personality types goes to the ISTJs. And as they say, you are last, but you are not least. I'll tell you that much. ISTJs, they are responsible, dependable individuals who value tradition, order, and stability in their lives. I mean, introverted sensing is their first function. That's all about the past. That's all about maintaining what already exists. It's all about structure, routine, consistency, stability, groundedness. All of those things exist in introverted sensing, and introverted sensing happens to be their first function. ISTJs are known for their strong sense of duty and commitment. They prefer order and stability, often creating systematic approaches to tasks and projects. Intuition is their last function. So when it comes to trying new ideas, that's not the thing that they're most comfortable with. So if you are the polar to new ideas, that means you, in essence, are all about what exists, about what works, about working with what you've seen. It's not looking to veer off of that, because when you do that, you're stepping into chaos and you're creating the opportunity and more risk for failure. So they're all about mitigating risks. They prefer order and stability. They're methodical, responsible individuals who excel in roles that require reliability, organization, and attention to detail. They contribute their strong work ethic and dedication to maintaining order and stability in their personal and professional lives. I mean, that's one thing that you can always count on, is that they carry themselves with a certain level of responsibility. They're not the types to quickly just be involved in taking a bunch of risks and overindulging in experiences. That's not the ISTJ way. Because they can always go back and wonder, is this right? Is this normal? Is this my pattern? And that helps keep them grounded. So that's one of the most beautiful gifts that they have. So now let's listen to an ISTJ communicate and tap into the world of the ISTJ. Let's see what they look like.
Well, I met Bill Gates on July 5th, 1991, and Bill said, "You've got to have a computer." And I said, "Why?" He says, "It's going to change everything." And I said, "Well, will it change whether..."
Right, so you got to have a computer. He said, why? Right? That's a little bit of resistance to change. And they have extroverted intuition fourth. So that they do have a little bit of that curiosity, a little bit of that, why is this? Why is that? You know what I mean? And so, with that being said, uh, that's a big element to ISTJs. They're curious, but they're more so curious about why things need to change. And that's the funny thing about them.
people chew gum. And he said, "Well, probably not." I said, "Well, then I'll stick to chewing gum and you stick to computers."
Earn that trust through dependable performance. You earn it. Nobody can give it to you.
Dependable performance. That's all about consistency, all about being reliable. That's why he used those choice words.
You can't buy it. You can't, talk about it. You got to go out there and earn it.
This book is so thorough. You have a part in here that explains how to organize your firewood. Yeah. This book is about organization. It's about keeping...
Organization. That's introverted sensing and extroverted thinking working together to make sure things are organized in the outer environment. Hello, hello, hello.
Your life orderly so that you can get on with other things and have a nice life. And...
Right. He quit it all, started a septic tank business. Not because he wanted to do that, but because that's what needed to be done. He figured out how to get good at it.
Because that's what needed to be done. That's all about duty, all about focusing on something of higher importance and sacrificing to that. And that's something that they represent.
And then he figured out how to love
it. So that was awesome. Let's keep going. So who is the ISTJ? The ISTJs, they're very dependable. You know what I mean? They're diligent individuals who value order and structure in all aspects of their lives. They excel in roles that require attention to detail, reliability, and adherence to established procedures. So these are the individuals, when you think of people who fly planes, people who do engineering, architecture, things of that nature, I mean, it's all about attention to detail, being able to review things to make sure that they're doing right, having a good idea of the outside environment and what needs to be done to make sure that everything's safe, being reliable and consistent, being responsible. These are all common words that you hear, common adjectives that you hear to describe the ISTJ. They prefer practicality over speculation, relying on proven methods to achieve tangible results. Once again, that word tangible. They're sensors, introverted sensing is their first function, but that means they're very grounded into reality. They're looking around at their environment and paying attention to what exists. They're not jumping into the random. They are looking at what exists and seeing what works and what doesn't work and moving forward in reality based off of that. While they may appear reserved, they are committed to fulfilling their responsibilities and maintaining stability in their environments. And that's honestly why they become very successful. You will see massively successful types with this personality type because this is the personality type that you trust to make sure to get tasks done and to make sure the tasks get done effectively. Now let's see what a ESTJ looks like. Let's see some more characteristics of them, different personalities showing, how ESTJs express themselves and operate.
Your goal is to be the largest online, and you are, retailer in the world. Beyond that, what's the goal?
Well, our mission is Earth's most customer-centric company.
And so he asked him what's the goal. He was trying to push him into forward thinking. But what he did is he said, well, let me go back to the mission in order to have a good idea of where we're going forward. So he's going back to have a more grounded idea of where he's going. And you can see him going back to the mission because that's something that he's familiar with and that he knows has been dissected and created in a way that he knows and believes and trusts that he can use this in the sensory environment.
I don't know what that means.
Well, I'll give you an example. Right after World War II, Morita-san, the guy who founded Sony, set as the mission for Sony.
Story. I just had to say it. He's going in the past. He's explaining a story about somebody, right? An objective situation that happened in the past. He's bringing up in order to tell something going forward. So very powerful. That's how you can tell that's an ISTJ.
That they were going to make Japan known for quality. And you have to remember, this was a time when Japan was known for cheap copycat products. And Morita-san said, he didn't say we're going to make Sony known for quality. He said we're going to make Japan known for quality. He chose a mission for Sony that was bigger than Sony. And when we talk about Earth's most customer-centric company, we have a similar idea in mind. We want other companies to look at Amazon and see us as a standard bearer for obsessive focus on the customer, as opposed to obsessive focus on the competitor. So that's one of the reasons we work on differentiated products. It's one of the reasons we take a long-term viewpoint on things. You can't really do the right thing for customers if you're short-term oriented. And if you're going to invent...
That's speaking of introverted sensing. You know what I mean? It's not short-term oriented. It wants to look at what's happened, analyze things, observe things in order to make better decisions. So it's not very impulsive, to be quite frank, and that's one of their gifts.
Into new things, you've also got to be able, this goes along with long-term orientation, you've got to be willing to endure a lot of criticism. If you're going to put, Kendall is a good example, if you're going to put your back into reinventing a 500-year-old industry, some folks are going to get ornery.
It was also feared at one time, those people who had...
That was a big laugh. I mean, that has nothing to do with MBTI, but man, that guy laughed really hard.
Had your stock. That once Walmart, for example, got serious about being online, they were going to blow you away. Why didn't that happen?
Well, I think it's because we did a good job for our customers.
Back to the Walmart issue, though.
Yeah.
What was it that made you able to sustain a challenge from the world's greatest retailer?
The obsessive customer focus on...
But how do you focus on the customer better than they focus on the customer?
They're
pretty good at focusing on the customer too.
But we're very differentiated in how we do it. And so our approach, if you think about our retail business...
This is game, by the way, people. If you're listening, while you're also learning about your type, who better to get advice than from the ISTJ and a ISTJ that's a billionaire? I mean, this is pretty awesome, right? You get a 2-in-1 in this course. You know what I mean? That's why it's worth every penny. Come on.
Which I think is what you're asking about here. There are really 3 things that we know are critical.
That's the heart and soul of your business.
Well, and especially relative to the Walmart question, yeah. I think that's the key. It's selection, low prices, and fast, convenient, reliable delivery. So that the shipment side. And
exactly, TE is listing the exact things. Let me run that back. TE gives you a breakdown. TE, extroverted thinking, communicates in a way of like, these are the objective things that they need. Like, look how beautiful that is. Let's hear that.
if you think about our retail business, which I think is what you're asking about here, there are really three things that we know are critical.
That's the heart and soul of your business,
and especially relative to the Walmart question, I think that's the key. It's selection, low prices, and fast, convenient, reliable delivery. So that the shipment side. And so
wait. So Walmart doesn't have low prices, fast, and convenient delivery?
I would claim that Amazon has much broader selection. In many cases, if I don't want to be overly bold in my claim, but the online model gives us significant cost structure advantages that lets us have even lower prices than physical stores.
Look at the knowledge at what they do, right? Like, look at the knowledge of what they're doing. They're very aware of what they're affecting in the outside world. And it's not about them. It's about what's going on out there. That's what makes them very, very successful. So now let's talk about the strengths and weaknesses. So now, when it comes to the strengths, we talked about it. They're reliable, they're responsible, very practical and realistic. A lot of that is because introverted sensing is their first function. They're only going to really trust and utilize things that have been proven in reality, things that have happened, things that they've seen with their own senses. They're not going to delve into too many things that can't be proven or things that they haven't seen. They just can't trust it. They have to trust what they've seen. They're organized and efficient. Once again, introverted sensing. Maintaining the environment, making sure things are where they need to be, making sure the environment isn't changing too much. It wants the environment structured. Strong sense of duty. Once again, introverted sensing. They're making sure to protect the space and make sure that the space is protected and not compromised. They're calm under pressure. And a lot of that just boils down to them being that sensing, that introverted sensing that they have, but it's their first function. It makes them hyper aware. And the extroverted thinking has so much knowledge and is ready to make decisions that in the outside world, they're always ready, for what's coming, for the most part. And then the loyalty and commitment. Introverted sensing is all about going back to the things that they know works, the things that are tried and true. So if you're a person in their life that they value, they will come back around to you because they know that you're a positive influence in their life. And they're very loyal to the people that they care about. Now, weaknesses that can occur. Obviously, rigidity and inflexibility. That's that introverted sensing. It likes routine. It doesn't like to do things differently. So when it's being presented with a new scenario that someone's trying to tell them about, they might be stubborn to that. And stubbornness, once again, goes with rigidity and inflexibility. They can have difficulty expressing their emotions. The reality is feeling is a third function for them. It's not the most comfortable function. And they have an idea of how they feel, but they have an even harder time understanding how other people feel. And also, they have a hard time expressing their feelings. They know how their feelings feel to them, but to have to express that to someone else is arduous. They don't feel like doing that. They can be considered judgmental because that extroverted thinking is making quick decisions. Their extroverted thinking is always thinking of this, that. So it's just moving. And they also can have an overemphasis on detail. That's the introverted sensing, always wanting to be exact, always going back. You got to fix this, fix that, seeking that perfection of things remaining the way they think they should be. You know what I mean? That's big. Then they have reluctance to delegate. And that's because they can just want to take things on themselves. They are introverts. They don't, as much as they can communicate with people to get tasks and things like that done, they don't really want to do the extroverted feeling of like connecting with people and, being kind of like that person that everyone gravitates to. They want to more so direct the environment and make sure everyone's operating at their best. They don't want to be the feeling that, make sure everybody feels good about everything. And at moments, it can get difficult for them to delegate because people are moved by feelings and by liking one another and things like that. All right, so now, before I do that, let's actually take a look at this video. And you get an opportunity to see what does an ISTJ look like when they're going through very stressful situations, when they're out of whack, right? When they've exhausted their main functions, when they've, just overexhausted themselves, when they're feeling negative, when they're unhealthy within. And I want the ISTJs to know this because there's times where you can really give people a hard time. You know what I mean? Where people can feel very annoyed, where they can feel discouraged, like they don't want to be around you. And ISTJs got to understand you're amazing people, and a lot of people love you. But when you're at your worst, you can be tough to deal with, and this is what it can look like. So let's hop in over here and see what it looks like. I was noticing that. I'm like, first of all, you notice he's isolated. He's to himself.
See, yeah, does you a lot of good. Always come up here for a bit in the evening, weather permitting, of course.
And one thing you notice, he's extremely uncomfortable socializing. You know, when they're in a very negative state, they can be very to themselves and very dismissive and honestly nervous of the outside environment. It's just a little bit too much at times.
Daughter says he does you good. I used to work nearby. Yes. I was in service with a family called Faraday until my retirement 3 years ago. I was their butler. I say butler, this was after the war, you see, and I was their only full-time employee. And what will be your line of business, or are you retired like me?
Oh, no. But perhaps I should think about retiring. Matter of fact, I'm a butler too.
Well, I'll be. It's a good job you told me when you did before I made a right fool of myself. Is it a big establishment?
I used to have 30 people working under me.
And look at how well he has his memory. I used to have 30 people working under him. Like, he knows it vividly. He has a very strong memory.
What a house that size requires. To be run properly, you see. I don't know if I could do it now. Not on that scale.
I thought I'd put our feet up sometime or other. Each and every one of us.
Yes. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I've got anything left to give, you see.
What you can see is the introverted feeling. He's running out of options. His routine has changed. He's gone through so much chaos that introverted feeling, which is their third function. So they actually feel very deeply. They feel very deeply. And they're connected to the past. And when things are changing too much or they feel very uncomfortable, this is him beginning to break down and express those introverted feelings that run so deep within him.
I worked for Lord Darlington for 30 years. And I gave him my very best right up until the day he died. I gave everything I had to Lord Darlington. Now I don't know what is left from my new employer. I don't know how I can serve him the way he has a right to expect.
Again, that introverted sensing, when things in the past aren't working like they used to work, the future can be scary. And a lot of the time when they think of the future, because intuition is their last function, it can be negative views of what's going to happen in the future. They can be very pessimistic about that.
Your Yankee, I've got one somewhere. Oh, here you are.
No, thank you.
Yeah, have a go.
I'm so sorry. I think it's the traveling that tired me. Yeah.
You must have been very attached to Lord Darlington.
I gave everything I had to give to Lord Darlington. Perhaps I gave too much. Perhaps I should have thought more of myself.
Going in the back, wondering what should I have done? What could have happened? The should-haves, the would-haves, the could-haves. You know, those are the things that can occur. You know, and that's that introverted sensing going back, seeing what could have happened.
Some others dear to me. Yes.
Well, see, what's done is done. Not looking back. Let everyone else have a go now. It's their turn. We've had our chance. There's a lot to be said. Just sitting here, watching them have a good time out there.
Yes. Yes, perhaps you're right. I'm sorry. It's very good talking to you. Well, I must go. Thank you very much.
once again, got what they needed, but he needs the space. You know, he connected for a little while. Time to get back to his routine, his comfort zone, what he's used to, so he can ruminate on what he got from this person.
Don't forget what I said.
No, I won't. Good night.
So, you know, the big thing about it is, you know what I mean? This is something to think about when it comes to ISTJs, because people see them as so, you know, in the grip, you think they'd be mad, yelling, arguing, but really for them, it's becoming emotional. It's becoming social. It's like, you know, normally they're always to themselves and very serious, but you see them when things break down, you see that more sensitive side that they have and those vulnerabilities. You know what I mean? So that's definitely something to keep in mind. All right, let's keep on rolling. All right, so for the functional loops, as we've talked about throughout this entire course, your extroverted loop is the one you get caught in when you're too much out in the world. Your introverted loop is what happens when you're too isolated within yourself. So you have introverted sensing and introverted feeling. This is very simple, kind of similar to the ESTJs, but you can get caught up in a loop where you're stuck on the past and thinking about negative things that happened. And you're constantly going to the past, or you're constantly feeling stuck. You're afraid to go forward because you're afraid. You can't live a life of fear. And the way for you to break out of that spell of wanting to hang on to what you already do and being afraid and continually going back instead of moving forward is you got to use your extroverted thinking. You know, your extroverted thinking is communicating with people. You got to communicate with different people, and you got to get different ideas, because the more ideas that you're exposed to, the more you will be able to get out of your comfort zone, right? If things logically make sense, you will be able to trust it. So you just need to find the external logic in order to trust what's going to happen when it comes to new things. And the more information you have in logic, the more comfortable you will feel going forward. So instead of trying to double down and hang on to what already is and you know, just keep going back, I want you to embrace communicating with people and finding and seeking out knowledge and information that's different from what you already know. Because once you get the knowledge, you'll feel more empowered to take the action, and your intuition will be more, you'll be more comfortable with it. Now, in terms of the external loop you can get caught into is to be constantly trying to control the outside environment. Your extroverted intuition will notice this and notice that, and your thinking will just tell people. It can be very controlling, especially when you're not feeling good within. You can lash out, you know, you can bring out more of the negative aspects of yourself to people. So it's important that in those moments you come back and get grounded, which is very possible because you have introverted sensing first. So it's important that you remain grounded, because if you continue to just go out and try to control the environment and do whatever you want based on what you think is the best thing to do, you will begin to stifle your external life. So use your introverted feeling and your introverted sensing to let you stay grounded and balanced, so that you're not rubbing too many people the wrong way, because that's how people will appreciate what you have to bring even more when it comes to your brilliant thoughts and observations. All right. So now, what is the gift of the ISTJ? Let's just get straight to it. Consistency. All right. They are steadfast and diligent in their daily tasks, reliable and trustworthy, values patterns and systems that work. They're loyal and willing to commit to work in order to attain success. That's that introverted sensing. All right. That's just straight up. That's the introverted sensing that they're utilizing in order to stay consistent, to review things, to go back and make sure that it's done right. But they have the extroverted thinking, which is a brilliant function at mapping out the world, observing what's going on, getting perspective, gathering thoughts in order to make the best decision. So when you pair that with their experience, especially when they are getting out of their comfort zone and using their extroverted intuition to gain more experiences, it's important that ISTJs gain more experiences, because the more experiences they gain, the more data that they can go back to. Their data and experience is only as strong as the amount of different things that they've gone through. So it's important that they continue to take life head on so that they can learn more and go back and pull from that vast array of knowledge. All right. So that is huge. And now let's get to your hidden power. Strategy. And I love this picture right here. This is all ISTJ energy here. Very skilled strategist, willing to sacrifice in order to make the right move. Okay. And when I say willing to sacrifice, that means they're willing to go back. They're willing to take their time. You know, they might not win the battle, but they'll win the war. That's their mentality. All right. They're disciplined and steadfast when making decisions. You know, they value efficiency, and they're constantly observing and collecting information, which makes them very decisive. You know, because once they make a decision, they trust that decision because they factored in a lot of data and information behind that decision. So when you pair the strategy that they have, and then you pair that with the consistency plus strategy equals excellence. That equals great execution. All right. And that is the power that the ISTJ has. You are someone that's willing to take the long route in order to make sure you're making the right decisions. You value doing things that logically make sense. You're a very rational individual, and you will put yourself in a position to succeed because you're willing to sacrifice the feeling gratitude aspects of life, right? Feeling good, engaging in those lower impulses, right? You're willing to sacrifice those things, and you put the extroverted thinking forward, which is the logical decisions to make based on the outside environment. You're looking at life like a game of chess, and that's what makes you so powerful. And even though you're quiet, you have the boldness to make decisions and to speak your truth, and that's why people respect you. So with that being said, I want to give a shout out to all the ISTJs. This is just a reference for you to understand your type. All these types are very complex, but once you understand the functions, you now have the tools to dig deeper and understand more about yourself. There's all this information online, there's all these books, there's all of this, but this is the rule that will give you everything you need. And then the best way to learn is to look at the people around you. Forget the internet, forget all of that. The best thing is to look at the people around you. And I want you to watch this course and to go back to it and say, who does this person remind me of, you know? So for the ISTJs out there, I want to give a shout out to you all. Any of you all watching this that know an ISTJ, I hope this was very informative. Tapping you into their mind and into their perspective. And I thank you all for listening, man. I mean, I want to give a shout out to all the 16 types. We all play an integral role in this game of life, and we're all one of these types. And we all know people who are these other types, and you learn so much. So in the very last module, I'm gonna just say something very short to kind of tie it all together. So make sure to check out the final module. But I thank you all for listening. Shout out to ISTJs, and I will talk to you all later.